temporary back in the.
Yeah.
I wasn't, see. But I was, head,
Good. Yeah.
it's like, I really had it there.
All right. Everybody, welcome this afternoon for the Marion City Council regular session for Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Rachel, roll call, please.
Mr. Miskman.
Here.
Mr. Jensen.
Here.
Mr. Harper.
Here.
Mayor Abawasley. Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Ms. Menzer. Here. Mr. Sternad.
Here. Very good, thank you. Okay, join me in a moment of silence. Very good, thank you. Okay, we're on to our segment of public forum for comments from the public on items that are on the agenda but not associated with a public hearing. We don't have any public hearing this evening, so is there anybody here to speak on items on our agenda? Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Gage, you've got it.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda as follows: A1 through F3, resolutions 31511 through 31534.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, including items A1 through F3, resolutions 31511 through 31534. Any discussion or questions? Very well. All those in favor of the consent agenda as stated, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve ordinance number 23-18, amending section 1-1 regarding general provisions and subsection 313-10.7A regarding parking regulations of the Marion Code of Ordinances, and this is the final consideration.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 23-18, amending section 1-1 regarding general provisions and subsection 313-10.7A regarding parking regulations of the Marion Code of Ordinances, final consideration. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of ordinance number 23-18 being approved as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve ordinance number 23-21, amending various sections of the Marion Code of Ordinances to update to gender-neutral pronouns. Second consideration.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 23-21, amending various sections of the Marion Code of Ordinances to update to gender-neutral pronouns. This is our second consideration. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve resolution number 31535, approving the purchase agreement with Jesse and Cassie Hammermeister regarding the property located at 524 10th Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 31535, approving purchase agreement with Jesse and Cassie Hammermeister regarding the property located at 524 10th Street. Any discussions or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of resolution number 31535 as stated, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve ordinance number 23-22, amending chapter 274, article 2 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding stormwater management regulations. And this is the second consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 23-22, amending chapter 274, article 2 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding stormwater management regulations. This is our second consideration. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 23-22 as stated, please say aye. Opposed? Ordinance carries, motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve ordinance number 23-19, approving an amendment to table 340-5.7-1 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding building setbacks within the M1 light manufacturing and M2 general manufacturing zoning districts, and this is the final consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 23-19, approving an amendment to table 340-5.7-1 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding building setbacks within the M1 light manufacturing and M2 general manufacturing zones and districts. This is our final consideration. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 23-19 as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to remove from table resolution number 31509 regarding revised elevations associated with Boulevard Apartments, Talon Development, which is tabled 10/2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove from table resolution number 31509 regarding revised elevations associated with Boulevard Apartments, Talon Development, which was tabled on 7/2023. Any discussion? Very good. All those in favor of removing from table resolution number 31509, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve, Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve resolution 31509, approving the revised elevations associated with the Boulevard Apartments final site development plan for property located at 648 Marion Boulevard, Marion, Iowa. This will be Talon Development. This was tabled originally on 7/20/2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 31509, approving revised elevations associated with the Boulevard Apartments Final Site Development Plan for property located at 648 Marion Boulevard, Marion, Iowa. This is Talon Development, originally tabled on July 2023. Okay, discussion on this item, and I think we'll probably have some commentary here. I think it would be appropriate, Dave, if you want to just introduce who's here to speak on behalf of this, we can take commentary then from the developer.
Sure. We have Josh Kruger with Talon Development. He was unable to make it last a meeting ago, so we had to table it and bring it forward tonight.
Okay, very good.
Can he go through the history?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, I can do it.
Just update, remind us of the history of this person.
Right. Thank you. I act like they're just back from vacation.
I think Nicole did a pretty thorough job a couple weeks ago. I'll do kind of a little more high level, not get into quite the details that she did. I think everybody's familiar with the site, located at 648 Marion Boulevard. Apartments have been going up. They're nearing completion. As we were working with the applicant on a sign on the site, it came to our attention that the material may have been changed, altered, or changed, subbed out from what was originally approved. On the image above, the approved elevations had more of a panel system style siding highlighted in the reds. This will be along the front. This is on all the sides, but it's really the lower level. It's most noticeable on the front main facade. What got installed was more of a traditional siding appearance rather than the panel system. again, shown on the screen on the revised elevations there. A little bit closer up of what was kind of approved and what was submitted as part of the building permit that then got approved by the building department and the planning division. Versus what was actually installed. Again, don't focus too much on the colors. The colors are actually pretty close together, but it was more of a traditional siding appearance rather than the panel appearance that was approved by the council. Details, actual photographs from the site, showing that siding material that was installed. Again, color pretty dang close, nothing that we're too concerned about as staff. It was almost an equal for an equal on the color, but just it presented very differently than what was approved by council. Myself as a zoning official, I can approve certain amount of changes up to a certain percentage. I felt this was too much of a change to justify a loan, so we took it to the Planning and Zoning Commission last month. They did recommend approval of the request 5-1 with another abstention to come forward to the council. Again, just right there, just the final blow up of kind of that, how they present to the public or how they present to the right of way, to the outward facing side of the facades. Again, Josh is here with the developer as the applicant to kind of go over a little bit more what had happened there. But again, what was approved and what was submitted with part of the building plans was that panel system in the upper image there. What was installed was more of that traditional horizontal siding style metal system.
Any questions?
I can go much further into the weeds if you'd like.
Just to clarify, because I think this is a little deceiving, besides the panel, which was maybe in that picture lighter, so you can kind of see the panels. The color, we didn't approve a cream color. Even though it looks that way in that first picture, it's what you showed us here that they were almost the same, even though when you look at that, you're like, we went from white to a dark. It was this.
No, it was very much the same color. They just, the way the renderings is, the idea is how it presents the street with the panel versus the horizontal.
Dave, as I read your memo on this, there was a comparison chart that was constructed between the product that was as approved in the final site development plan, right here.
I skipped it pretty fast. It's pretty detailed.
Okay, so the column in the center is what we approved, and then the column on the right is what has actually been installed.
Correct.
That is inconsistent with what we originally approved.
Yeah, the biggest concern coming out of this one from staff is really when you get down to the height column, you go from a 20-inch panel to 28 height to a 6-inch. The lengths, obviously is quite a bit different. You get more of a 144-inch siding material versus a 20 by 72-inch panel. So while it might be a different type of, steel versus aluminum, the gauge is not a whole lot different there as well. The colors are similar. So it's really coming down to the height and length of the two materials that is the issue that we didn't feel comfortable making the call on our own.
Okay, just, and I don't want to overstep anybody else that has a question here, but one, as I reviewed this today, so the basis for which this is coming to council, planning and zoning indicated approval of this.
That is correct.
However, it's coming to us because of the, I guess, the substantial change. And I suppose that's either on square footage of exposure on the building. That's the reason why it's coming to council.
It ultimately comes to council because it's plan unit development. Any changes in the plan unit development go to P and Z for recommendation to the city council. So regardless if it was material, if they wanted to add balconies or something else, it would always come back to you as long as that, again, it was over 10% change in that material, it was 100% change in that material. So I could not prove that as a zoning official. So that's why you're seeing it.
Okay. So what I'd like us to do here is stick with Dave if there's any other questions that we need to present to him. And then I'd like to move to have Mr. Kruger speak with us about the necessity for change here and how that went. Yeah, Sarah?
Do we have any knowledge on the durability or lifespan of the different materials? Is one a material that would last longer, more durable or not? Are they pretty comparable? Do we know?
I'll let
Maybe
the
that's a
applicant
question.
address that.
Hold that thought. For question.
I have a question.
Yes, Will.
Is this something that happens frequently? I'm trying to remember over the last 8 years of this.
To this level, no. Most oftentimes we'll get especially in the last 3 years of supply chain issues, we'll get swapping a red apple for Granny Smith apple. They're both very similar products, but it's same product, different manufacturers. So a Q-tip brand versus the off-brand of Q-tip, they're basically essentially the same. It's just, the company that manufactures them, the color variations might be a different shade of tan, but it's basically still tan. So it happens occasionally, but not to this level. It's usually in trim material or swapping out a lot of times maple tree for an oak tree or something like that. It's still an overstory tree, so we don't necessarily bring that back because it's still a very comparable comparison. But this one was just getting a little further away than we were comfortable making the call on our own.
Randy?
Dave, we keep seeing these photographs here, but I want to remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think we have a monumental sign that changed as well on the exterior. Is there anything else on the building other than what we're seeing from 7th Avenue or Highway 151 that we cannot see from the street that has been modified or changed?
Just the base material around the building. This goes around the sides a little bit as well. So we're focused on the front, obviously, because what everybody sees, but it is this material that was approved has been swapped on all the spots that it was.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dave? Just sort of a benchmarking question, Dave, and if you don't remember it, but if somebody else has that information, would be useful. What was the city's committed contribution to this project? Was it a
10-year, I don't recall the entire amount.
2.3 million.
I'm sorry, say again. Thanks, Kim.
2.3,
Okay, our committed support of this was 2.3.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that was 10-year. 10 years, 100%. Yes.
10 years at 100%.
Okay.
Is there
All
a
right.
slide you'd like left up?
Yeah, leave it up.
This one was okay, or do you want the full building or?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Okay, so I think it's appropriate at this point, Mr. Kruger, if you could speak to council. And without wanting to bias any of the inquiry that my colleagues would have here, I guess what is first and foremost in my mind is, what are the compelling set of reasons that led to this change versus as approved versus as built? So get to that context of response, but there may be other things you want to share with us here in a summary fashion, and then we'll open it up to other council member discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Josh Kruger with Town Development, 1305 East Benson Road. That question you just asked is probably the most important one, honestly, with the background and history here. Made some notes to keep it brief, and then I'll be here for any questions. But if you remember, when we were going through the original PUD final site development plan, we had proposed some other elevations than what we're looking at here today, that we brought up to city council for approval and got to hear feedback for the first time at that after it was approved at planning and zoning. At that time, we tabled it because there was a lot of back and forth comment on what council would rather see as far as materials shown on the buildings, whether it be stone or metal or a hardy or lap siding or other aluminum trims. And it was a kind of a confusing time for me because at that moment in time, the city of Marion didn't have any exterior design standards to go off of. So we were just kind of basing our building design off of, what we like to see, what fit in the budget and what we've used prior. And after going back and forth with council and staff, you know, after we tabled it, we had just like a day short of 2 weeks to revise all of the drawings and schedules, to show a different material, just based on tabling it and trying to make it for the next meeting. And I know that's not an excuse, but that is all of the events that kind of led up to what happened and why there's a different siding than what was approved on the final site development plan. In the time that we were making the final revisions to the drawings and elevations that you see on the left-hand image up there, our first thing was, you know, when we chose to go and look for a metal panel that we wanted to use, to try to satisfy planning and zoning and city council on the exterior design, our first thing was, you know, find the right color. So we've got a library of different material selections in our office, and we pulled one from MAC metals that we've used in the past, not in this scale, but in smaller scale, and like the metal, and would like to use it again. The issue was when we met with the architect to update the drawings and revise the elevations, what we had brought was the polymac metal panel brochure with the smoke birch color texture that we wanted to use for the project. While the designer, on the other hand, not related to the architect, had, you know, always had the intent that we're going to use the color, but we're going to use the hairy wood style, which is the horizontal 6-inch by 12-foot siding pieces. And since that was all approved, you know, the drawings didn't change. They stayed the same. It's what was submitted to the city of Marion, and was approved. And the city actually looked at it and said, yep, the metal panel's still there. It's what was on the final site development plan. We're good to go. What we didn't submit was the finished schedules that come with the specifications for the project, which did have the hairy wood in the smoked birch metal siding in there as our basis of design. It was, you know, it's not something, I want to make it clear, it wasn't intentionally switched out because it cost too much or any sort of the word. Trust me, I would have been up here much sooner, because as soon as Nicole Behrens brought it up to my attention that something didn't match, you know, I and Dave went back and forth immediately, and got this back on P&Z, to try to get it approved as is. A few other notes, I think the few questions that you guys have asked, or discussed with Dave, the durability of materials between the two. They're very similar in thickness, but one is steel, one is aluminum. That's probably the most major difference. Durability from a weather standpoint, about the same. Steel, you do have to be mindful. It's going to be more susceptible to hail damage. All of the metal panels on steel are also wrapped in a thin film, a hydro film, and we have at the other property that we use these panels on. Unfortunately, after 2.5 years, I've already seen the corners start to rust through because they're steel. We're trying to work through that with the vendor at that point, but the hairy wood, the stuff that the material that's installed in the building, we have used that time and time again. We like to use the shape and size of that metal panel more than the larger format metal panels, specifically because the larger format ones are almost always steel. And what we've seen a lot in larger installs with steel panels in a 20x72 is the hot, cold seasons, you start to get the oil can look after a short period of time, not too unfamiliar from the building that's just across the street here. I know that's just kind of something that happens with those types of materials, but you know, it's not something I like to see on my buildings. But with the aluminum siding, you know, there's a lot of the aluminum horizontal siding, there's a lot of play back and forth and slip, and we don't tend to have that issue as much. I think like Dave said, the colors, it's not represented well here on the elevations, but in person, the colors are identical. They're the same exact film from the same vendor. It's just bought and applied to two different materials. Um, here, a few other things, I think you guys already touched on it. The city of Marion is a partner in this development with us, through way of a 10-year, 100% property tax abatement. We worked, side by side with city staff, planning and zoning, building services, home for coming, as many of the hurdles as we had from the beginning. It was a tough site from the get-go. There was a lot of history there. It was very interesting to get all of that torn down and cleaned up for redevelopment. But, just like any other project, there's always going to be hurdles, and, being partners with the city, I hope we can overcome this one. I hope, it would still be satisfactory to have this metal installed, since, it is really the color being the same. The only difference is, right now there's a seam every roughly 7 inches. It would just be a little more than double that would be the main difference, here.
Okay, so thanks for that level set relative to kind of how we got here and the basis for that. I certainly have some questions, but I don't want to overshadow other council member questions. So I just want to open it up now to everybody here with the questions that they have. I'll hold mine for just a bit. Questions?
No questions, just comments.
Okay, go ahead.
My comment on this is the discussions we had on this project towards the end, the reason it was delayed for a vote was the appearance, the exterior appearance of this building. We had the discussion that this is the gateway, going to be one of the gateway buildings into Marion. And so we did reject the first presentation you had for exterior materials. And what we did approve, in my mind, is the appearance of the one in the upper left-hand corner. So I appreciate you making some of the comments about the steel, maybe some of the potential problems. But in my opinion, at least at that point in time, I was very adamant that that is the appearance. That appearance there was better than what you first presented, because what you first presented looked like a residential home. Everything was horizontal siding, and that's exactly what you put back on here was residential look siding with 7-inch siding. So my opinion is that the portrayal, the exterior picture in the upper left is what was presented, is what we approved. It's the only thing I will approve. I'd be amenable if you want, if there's a problem with steel, you can talk with staff and change the materials if you think that's an issue. But in my opinion, we bought into that look, not the one in the bottom right, and that's the way I'll vote.
Can I respond to that?
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Wanted to know if you could respond.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
please, I'm sorry.
I mean, you made a bunch of good points. You're not wrong at all. The only thing that I have a little bit of concern about is, what you, trying to put it in your words. You said in your mind, what was on the left is what you guys approved at city council the first go around. And that kind of strikes an iron for me, because it's been difficult to make sure that everybody is on the same page for what was actually, put out there to be approved. Trying to convey them on what's the differences to what was approved and what's there now. Simply because, the only thing that we had was, brochures that didn't match the actual color or the actual type of install. We didn't provide any physical samples to the city of Marion to confirm that, yes, this was in fact what was approved or what was to be approved. It doesn't relate, or not trying to just sway you, but there was a lot of disorganization, and I was kind of all wrapped up into that at the same time. And what spat out of that was unfortunately something that ended up different on the elevations from what I was actually proposing. So it was a little bit, I hope you can understand, it was a little bit frustrating on my part because, there was no way for me to confirm or appease everybody without any base of design or knowing what people like and don't like. And, I appreciate all the time you guys have spent working on this with me, don't get me wrong. But I'm glad you guys have design standards now. If we come back again, I can make this a lot easier.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Kruger? So as I reviewed this, Josh, I read your letter dated July 13, and I just tried to get solidified in my own mind sort of the timeline on this. And I certainly appreciate the composition difference, steel versus aluminum, which leads me to somewhat think if you're experienced with steel product of any type, any color, any configuration is problematic, which you pointed out an example that we have right here in Uptown. I agree with you on that. It kind of leads me to wonder, well, why was that even spec'd or at least apparently spec'd as part of what was in our final site development plan that we approved? It would seem to me that material selection of steel is a less good decision than aluminum in most cases. So I was somewhat became a little focused on that particular thing. You just commented and reinforced what you also shared in your letter was that there was a bit of confusion about what the design requirement was. And I try to boil these things down to, what is the simplest customer specification that's been articulated? And in my mind, the action that was taken by council to approve the final site development plan, quite honestly, became the design requirement for the project, independent of it not being specified in any other form or manner as provided by the city. So through our action, we provided as a design requirement. From my vantage point, we're just sitting here with, well, we approved A, but what got built is B. And obviously there's some reasons for that are drivers. So I guess what I just need to ask you to recap in very concise terms, what are the specific drivers that caused you to make this material change? Just list them out, 1, 2, 3.
So if I wasn't clear earlier, I'll try to be now. Long story short, we did not actually change the material. It's confusing, but we have wall section details and elevations in the architectural drawings, and that lays out, the plans for, most of the project. We have subsequent specifications and finish schedules for all of the very detailed items related to the project, flooring, product types, colors, pill, length, and we got paint colors, cabinet finishes, hardware, door hardware, all that stuff that it just never lands on our architectural drawings. So when we handed that brochure of the MAC metals to the architect, said, this is the color of metal product that we want to use. They took it as, you want this exact product. It's what got on the elevations that were presented. I didn't think much of it because I'm not always the biggest expert in the room when it comes to exterior materials, metal panel, that's what the intent, that's what our discussion was. But when I went back to our finished schedule and specifications, it had always been the Harrywood horizontal siding. So everybody related to the project had always thought it was the Harrywood product in the same color. On the design side, everyone thought it was the metal panel. That's where our internal confusion and mistake came from. That's on us.
So let me just recap what I believe I heard. So what we approved is essentially design elevations that were representative of the diagram that's in the upper left
Yep.
here.
Yep.
That's what we approved. But then with that being in essence a design criteria being approved, that was not retrofitted then into the downstream construction documents. Okay. All right, so
No, I want to be 100% honest. This is a mistake we made. We feel it's a good product and we like it. That's why it was on the specs and finish schedule. But obviously it was not approved and communicated to council and planning and zoning. And that's in essence what we're here.
okay. Well, and the basis of my question is somewhat of my past professional experience as a project manager and responding to customer requirements. And so I feel your pain, okay? Been there, done that on a few occasions. All right, are there any other questions or comments? Sarah?
Is there a large price difference between the two?
No, I actually looked back. We had since, after this came up with, when we put in for a monument sign permit, we immediately went out and bid that material. I think the difference in cost for the exact same area, square footage of the building was less than $3,000. And that could have been because of the timing, so.
Okay, then my follow-up question is, maybe you don't know this. If this had to come off and you had to replace it, how much does that cost you? And then compared to the cost of the project?
Well, the cost to remove and replace right now is dancing around the $200,000 mark. In relation to are you asking for like the total cost of the project or the
Yeah, so
total cost of
I
siding?
was just like percent, no, the cost of what you'd have to do that in relation to the cost of the overall project and, because the overall project, remind me, is how much?
Or like just construction costs?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah, I mean, how
so-
much, yeah, the whole project was what?
Yep, so the apartment building itself was 11.8 million, 11,888. If you look at it in relation to, just siding materials for the building, with the pre-finished hardy lap siding and the board and batten, and all other accessories, all of the other materials for this building are about $10,000 less than what just the metal panel costs. So it is significantly more. I mean, but we knew that. I mean, that's a given with any, primary material design standard type, layout, so.
Yeah, I think like where I'm at on this is, yeah, I feel the pain of what happened. I appreciate you taking a lot that was being underutilized and creating this development. It's despite it's a little wonky in how you come into Marion in this edge, and not everybody really knows where they're leaving Cedar Rapids, where we leave Marion, as we had talked about. This was why we were so picky. Kind of a passion for this you get middle of is it is a gateway, and we hope that this project stays for a very long time and looks magnificent for a very long time as a gateway to our community. So I think I want to that positive out there that we I appreciate that. That happening and the vision for it. And it's unfortunate how this came up. And I think that's just kind of where we're at, because appreciate what you're doing. Personally, I've driven by it. Multiple times, and I got as close as I could to look, not knowing what the other ones were. And, it looks good now. And so it's not really even that for me. I think it's just more of like how we deal with approving something and then having this happen. And now we've got this up here, and now we're both in a really tough no-win situation because of it. That's my point. My comment to my questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other questions? Randy?
I just want to echo the same things that everyone else is saying too, but it puts us in a position too of, you know, how we would deviate off of future projects and how those projects are going to be handled as well too, when we run into these types of things. So I think that's always a strong consideration and concern that I have is we do it today. It's an anticipation, you know, that it would be done again in the future. So that just something that, always concerns me, but by the same token too, it's a beautiful building. It's, you know, a great asset to our community, but again, too, at the end of the day, it's a very unfortunate situation that's happened. But anyway, I just wanted to make a comment on the setting of precedents.
Thank you, Randy. Anything else? I will have to say, you know, just at kind of high level, it's an improvement to the property from what was there previously. Okay, so I mean, that mission's been accomplished, that objective. You know, in my mind's eye, it really comes down to just, you know, consistency of conformance with what, you know, we're asked to approve, and which sets an expectation, which sets a design criteria, which then, you know, when you have a deviation from that consistency, that's the box we're in right at this point. So, okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Anything else just amongst us here at this point? Okay. Back to the motion. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 31509, approving revised elevations associated with the Boulevard Apartments final site development plan for property located at 648 Marion Boulevard, Marion, Iowa, on behalf of Talon Development. And this was originally tabled on July 20, 2023. All those in favor of approving resolution number 31509 as stated, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. No. Okay. Resolution number 31509 is not passed as stated. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the consideration on this. I just as follow up, I mean, I think the gratifying thing is we take these things very seriously and have to deal with them as such. So, all righty. So let's move on to public forum. So this is a time to address anything that the public members of the public would like to have. However, we won't take any action at this point in time based on those comments, and but they will help inform future action considered by council. So at this time, public forum is open. Okay.
This will be unfortunately, my last time in the council chambers for quite a long time until I get to do another project in Marion, but just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate you guys' help on everything through the project, and hope to see you there at the ribbon cutting. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Have we received any kind of general correspondence that fits into the public forum agenda item at all?
I have not.
Okay. All right, we'll close the public forum and open up council comments, and we'll start with Mr. Miskman.
Sure. Yeah, I guess one thing I've been thinking about with a lot of the various correspondences I've had with residents, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone in this room on city staff. As I've only been in this role for a few months now, just you guys have all been really just helping me understand how everything works, and super responsive and quickly responsive to all of my various questions. And it's just shown me on this side how quick and effective you guys are at responding and the customer service that you provide to all the residents that have questions and concerns. So I just really appreciate your guys' help as I've been learning and trying to absorb all the information as the little sponge I've been trying to be. But again, I'm just really grateful for everyone's assistance in that and helping string me along here. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Steve?
So I always have a lot of comments and questions about all of the concerts that are held throughout the city and throughout the year. And so tonight is the first night for the Uptown Get Down concerts to be held uptown on 7th Avenue. So I'll be going home, changing into shorts and heading back up there. But I think that's going to be interesting, having the concerts on 7th Avenue. So we'll see some others there.
Will?
Hopefully everyone's excited for NFL to start because tonight's the first preseason game. So I'm gonna go home and do that instead of going to the concert. Sorry, concert. Sorry, people of Marion, I'll be watching football. I think that's all I got. I didn't have anything.
Yeah, Randy? Well, my only comment, let's see, we've got another 10, 20 minutes here. I'll try to fill that airspace. No, so I've been gone for about 3 weeks, vacation activity out of the country with my wife. And I just want to tell you, you go somewhere way different, whether it's on the continent or off the continent. But my experience has been, you see those new and different things. But what's always been in the back of my mind is the comfort of knowing that you come home to a place like Marion. So, that we had a great time for that almost 3 weeks, but we were anxious just to get back home. And so that's that. And I probably won't see much football tonight because I'm working on a 7-hour time shift. I'm trying to get myself back calibrated to. And so that means, Steve, I won't go home and change into shorts and be back uptown. However, I would like to just note for your benefit, next time you have that attire conflict, you certainly can, use the Will Brandt, provision within our contract as city council members. You can wear shorts to council if you have to. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Every day, all day in the summer.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for attending or listening in. So now, thank you, Steve. We have to move ourselves into closed session. So, Gage, the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to adjourn to closed session regarding real estate transactions as permitted under section 21.51J of the Code of Iowa.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move into closed session regarding real estate transactions as permitted under section 21.51J Code of Iowa. May I please have the legal statement, Kara?
Thank you, Your Honor. I've reviewed the proposed subject matter for the closed session and find the same to be appropriate under Iowa Code, section 21.51J.
Very good. Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Miskman,
Yes.
Mr. Jensen,
Yes.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Ms. Menzer,
Yes.
Mr. Sternad.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned at 6:19 into closed session. Thank you very much and have a good evening.